Welcome to Religions 102, Introduction to World Religions. I am the course instructor. My name is Andrea Scardina. You're free to call me Andrea if you like. In this first lecture, we're going to talk a little bit about the course. We're going to go over the syllabus, and we're going to set up the semester. On this very first slide, you're going to see several different symbols. These are symbols for the 5 largest religions in the world, the great religions as they're sometimes called. We're going to have a chance to look at each of these 5 religions in turn and learn about their history, their beliefs, and the people who follow them. So let's take a look. You're probably familiar already with this symbol right here as a cross, right? And that is the common symbol for Christianity. Probably already familiar with that one. Let's take a look at this one that's up and to the left just a little bit, the star. This star is called the Star of David, and it is the common symbol of Judaism, right? And right next to that is a crescent moon with a star, and that is a commonly used symbol for Islam. Now, interestingly enough, this is not the universal symbol for Islam. Islam does not exactly have one unilateral universal symbol. The crescent moon with the star is the most commonly used symbol for Islam. These 3 religions are very closely connected. They're the 3 largest Western religions. In fact, they are the Western religions. And they're often called the Abrahamic religions. You might not know this, but they all come from, they all are interrelated. They're essentially family members. Judaism is the oldest of these 3 religions, and Christianity is essentially an offshoot of Judaism, and Islam is also an offshoot of Judaism. When we get to the second half of the semester, we're going to have a chance to talk all about them. You'll see how very closely interrelated they are and how they use very similar stories and similar rituals and have very similar holy places. The other 2 symbols here, this one here, this very interesting cursive looking symbol, and this wheel cut off at the top here should have another little spoke right here the way it does on the sides. An 8-spoked wheel. These are the 2 major religions of the East. This right here is the symbol for Hinduism. Next week we're going to have a chance to start talking about Hinduism. Most of you are probably not familiar with Hinduism, but it is likely the oldest extant religion, which is to say it's the oldest religion is still in existence. It dates back many thousands of years, and it is the native religion of the country of India. But Hinduism has several offshoots as well, one of which is Buddhism, which you might be familiar with. This wheel here, this is the symbol of Buddhism. We're going to have a chance to talk about another offshoot of Hinduism, Jainism, which you might not have heard of before, but is a religion that's relatively small and really only exists now in India. These 3 religions have had a very large impact on the philosophy of the East. This symbol for Hinduism is actually a word. It's not a symbol. It's an actual word from ancient Sanskrit, and it is the word Om, which according to Hindus was the very first word spoken. It was the word spoken by the gods to bring everything into creation. And it's often spoken, or it's often chanted during meditation rituals and things like that. So, as the first religion we're going to have a chance to talk about, and the wheel is often called the Dharma wheel, and as I mentioned, it is a symbol of Buddhism, a very large religion, the 3rd largest religion in the world, and the 8 spokes represent the 8-fold path, which is the steps the Buddha put out to live a good life as a Buddhist, right? So each of these spokes, each of the spokes on this wheel represent a different step on the path of a good life. It's called the 8-fold path. In addition to these 5 religions, we'll have a chance to look at Jainism, as I mentioned. We'll also have a chance to look at a little-known religion called Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism dates back to ancient Persia, which is modern-day Iran. And Zoroastrianism is one of the smaller religions in the world. There are less than half a million Zoroastrians left in the world, so not very many. But it's believed to be perhaps the oldest monotheistic religion, the oldest religion in the world that espoused only one god and not multiple gods. So we'll have a chance to look at that as well, and how Zoroastrianism was influenced by Hinduism, but came to in turn influence some of the Abrahamic religions as well. So the goals for today, or for this first lecture in any event, is to go over some introductions, review the syllabus, and talk a little bit about some of the theories of religion that we're going to have a chance to talk about in the coming week and in the coming weeks, coming semester. You'll see this picture here I included. This is a picture of a parade in India. You might not know who this deity is. Hopefully by the end of next week, you should know who this is. This is Durga. She is a great mother goddess who's also a fierce warrior, protects her followers, and also is a destroyer of sin and of evil. It's very common in Hindu practice to carry the icons, the idols, out of the temples on parade days and on holy days, and take them around the city in a parade. And people will come out to touch them, to leave offerings and things like that. So that's a picture I included here. So introductions. So in the discussion for today, there is a discussion that goes with this lecture. I will ask you about yourself. I'll ask you each to tell the class a little bit about yourself. And I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Andrea Scardina. I have a master's degree from the University of Chicago in religious studies. My area of focus was early Christian history. So I spent 2 years intensely studying the first 3 centuries of Christian history, from around the time of the death of Jesus of Nazareth up until the Council of Nicaea, which you'll have a chance to learn about in the second half of the semester, when the Christian church was authoritatively established. So the first 3 centuries of Christianity, when there were no set rules yet and everyone was trying to figure out how this whole church thing would work. It's a very interesting period of time in history. With that, I also studied the other ancient religions that ancient Christians lived with, including ancient Jews, ancient Greeks and Romans, and Egyptians. So I know a little bit about all the ancient Mediterranean religions. I am, as you can guess, I am big into history, huge history buff, and I think I infuse a lot of this course, all of my courses, with history. I think it's really important to understand. In order to understand how these religious traditions came to be what they are today, we need to understand where they came from and what sorts of influences they had. So in most of the units, pretty much, I take that back, in all of the units, start with the history of the religion and how it came to be. I did my undergraduate degree at a little school on the West Coast called the University of Puget Sound. There I was an Asian studies major with a minor in religion. So I studied Asian religions as an undergraduate, and I traveled as well. I did study abroad and studied Asian religions abroad. And I also, after graduating from my undergraduate degree, I lived in Asia for about 5 years. Most of my time I spent in a little country called Taiwan, which is just off the coast of China. And Taiwan has predominantly Chinese culture, Chinese people living there, ethnically Chinese people. And there they practice Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism in similar ways to what they would in China. So between all my travels and my time living in Taiwan, I have gained a lot of knowledge of Asian religions. But what I know of Asian religions is more based upon firsthand encounters, knowing people of those traditions and seeing them firsthand, and sometimes participating in them. Whereas a lot of what I know of Western religions, I know from firsthand encounter as well, because I certainly grew up in this culture. But I know a lot more of the history and the scholarly backgrounds of the Western religions than I do the Eastern religions. Even so, I try to bring it all to the fold, try and use it all in the class. I will ask you, one of the questions for the discussion today is to say a little bit about your own religious background. I do that so that you can get a chance to know each other, but also it gives me a chance to kind of know where you, the students, are coming from. As you come to this class, what is your background? What do you know already? What have your experiences been? And that helps me kind of get a sense of what you might already know about these religions and what you might not know. Because certainly I don't want to, give you a lot of information that you already know. I don't want to bore you, but at the same time, one of the interesting things about this class is that I do get people from all different backgrounds. I get a lot of Christians. I get also I've had Jewish students, Hindu students, Muslim students, and so all of them coming in know something about their own tradition, but there are probably a lot of other things they don't know about their traditions. So the point of all that is to say that I ask you about your religious tradition again, so it gives me a sense of your own background and what you might already know. I don't talk about my own religious background in this course. I think it's very important as a professor of religious studies to not bring any of my personal beliefs to the classroom. This class is not about what any of you or what I believe in necessarily. This is about learning about other people's perspectives and approaching religion from a very academic standpoint. So what that means is that I don't want to, how do I put this? I don't care necessarily what you believe. I don't have a horse in that race. I'm not trying to convince you to believe this or to believe that. I'm not trying to convince you to be a part of any of these religions. And whatever your religious background is, I deeply respect. I do. It's not my job to convince you, any of you, to become a member of any particular religion or convince you not to become a member of any particular religion. It's my job to introduce you to these religions and teach you about them and help you to understand and respect each of them. And I think that's very important. And so for that reason, I don't talk about my own religious background. I try to leave that outside the classroom. I think that's very important. However, at the end of the semester, I know some students are very curious about that. If at the end of the semester you want to ask me again, I'd be happy to talk to any of you about it. But for the sake of this class, we're here to learn and to understand other people's perspectives, not necessarily prove our own. Moving on from that, let's take a look at all these different religions. I like to start this class with this Atlas of Faiths, this huge map that gives you a sense of all the different religions in the world and how very complex and diverse the world is religiously. So this map here is color-coded by the specific religions and religious sects of each religion that make up the world. And we have this pie chart in the corner here, if you see it. It's believers as a percentage of the global population as of 2002. These things certainly change over time, but it's fairly recent. So if you look here, you'll see the largest of all religions, the very largest of religions in the world is Christianity, right? And that includes Roman Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox Christians, and other forms of Christianity, such as Mormonism, Coptic Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, so on and so forth, that don't exactly fit into any of these other categories. A lot of my students are surprised to see that of these categories, by far the largest category is Roman Catholic. The Catholic Church is the largest Christian church in the world by far. It outnumbers the other three groups put all together, right? If you put the Protestants, the Orthodox Christians, and the other Christians all together, you'd still have more Roman Catholics in the world than any other group of Christians. And it's probably because where we live in this part of the country, in this part of the world, the majority of Christians that you encounter are Protestant. And by Protestant, I mean they're members of Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran churches, and so on and so forth, Episcopal churches. But you can see here, the Roman Catholics are represented by the color yellow. Most of South America and a large portion of Europe, and parts of Asia as well, are all Roman Catholics. Another interesting thing about the Christian groups, groups on the map, is if you look at Europe here, take a chance to look at Europe right here, you can see that each country is pretty well delineated by religion. What I mean is, here you see France. France is just completely yellow. Spain is completely yellow, which is to say Catholic. England is completely orange, so they're all Protestant. Norway, Sweden, both completely orange. Traditionally, religion was very much linked to nationality. Whoever your king was, or whatever religion your king was, that was the religion that you were. That's always kind of the way things were, or the way things have been for much of human history. When you look over at Canada and United States, though, we're this bizarre mishmash. We're this bizarre, tie-dye. We have this tie-dye map here. Great combination of different forms of Christianity. One of the things that makes North America, including Canada, to be very unique is you have all these different religions living side by side, right? You can go up and down a street, and here in Champaign, you can come across an Episcopal church, a Lutheran church, a Catholic church, and then maybe a Buddhist meditation center too. So it's very interesting. The next largest religion in the world is Islam. Members of Islam are called Muslims. You can see Muslim population spans from Africa up into the Middle East, all the way over into Indonesia and Southeast Asia, right? And many other places as well, because of a lot of the in North Africa right now, there has been a good deal of famine. There's also been a lot of wars. There have been a lot of Muslim refugees who have gone to other countries, especially Europe, and also United States, Asia, to live, to find peaceful living. And so you find that there are a lot of large pockets of Muslims in all across North America and Europe as well. But that is the second largest religion in the world, one of the fastest growing. The next largest religion is one you might not know, Hinduism. Hinduism, there are 13.3 million Hindus in the world, and they are all located here in India. It's an ancient religion that is very much intertwined with Indian ethnicity and nationality. But Hinduism had a great impact on the rest of Asia. You'll see all these green parts here are Buddhists. Buddhism, as I mentioned, is an offshoot of Hinduism. Would not be without Hinduism. China here, you'll see China used to be majority Buddhist. However, in the last 50 years, there has been some degrees of shall we say, religious oppression within China. A number of a good number of Chinese citizens, are strictly atheist, but there still are quite a few Buddhists left. The last of the five major religions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, is Judaism, and it is by far the smallest of all of these religions. Look at that. If there are 17.4 million Roman Catholics, 19.8 million Muslims, 13.3 million Hindus. I'm sorry, that's not million, that's percent. 17.4% is Roman Catholic, 19.8% is Muslim, 13.3% is Hindu. Only 0.2% and the world's population is Jewish. Can you even find that color? The Jewish color is this the green color? Can you find it on the map? It's right there. Right there. That tiny little sliver is the modern state of Israel. Though there are a good number of Jews who live in Europe and America as well. The only really, the largest population is here in Israel. And we'll talk more about the history of Israel in our section on Judaism. Some other religions we see here are Shintos, who live in Japan. We'll have a chance to talk about other Chinese religions, including Taoism, Confucianism. Zoroastrians still live today here in Iran, this very large country here that is majority Muslim. Still a lot of Zoroastrians who live there, and still a lot of Jains who live here in India. So I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the religious diversity in the world. Okay, so let's get to the big questions as to why we're in this class. What is religion? Religion is a pretty major thing, and you probably have a good idea of what religion means. We're going to try and challenge that in this class. We're going to look at a lot of different religions, and they define themselves in a different way. They might define the word religion in ways that you might not be familiar with. One thing they all have in common, though, is this idea of the unseen reality. That's what the textbook calls it, based upon the great religious philosopher William James, referring to the fact that one thing that all members of all religions share in common is this idea of the unseen. A thing that's there, but it's not tangible. You can't see it. You can't exactly hear it. But you know it's there. You sense that it's there. All these religions share that in common. Yet, they all have very different definitions of what that unseen is. In Christianity, in Judaism, and Islam, there's an idea of there being one single God, right? They're monotheistic religions. This one God is a creator. This one God is like us in many ways, has emotions, has thoughts and ideas, creates things, interacts with humanity. That's what the unseen is. This whole other realm outside of this earthly realm, right? But if you look at something like Buddhism, Buddhism has a very different idea of the unseen. Within Buddhism is what we call a non-theistic religion. Buddhists don't believe in God of any form. They do believe in this idea of anatman. They believe in this sort of eternal part of you, because you could call it a soul. And that ultimately all these souls are kind of one. And that this world that we live in is illusionary, and we're stuck in cycles of reincarnation, and that the goal of us and our souls is to break out of reincarnation through enlightenment, through nirvana, through liberation, right? Within Buddhism, there are no gods that they worship. Buddha is just a man, a person. He was a human being just like you and I were. You and I are. He was a human being. He found enlightenment. He found nirvana, which is a way out of reincarnation. And modern Buddhists do not worship the Buddha. Rather, they respect him and they study his teachings so that they too can reach that unseen reality. They can break out of the cycle. They can break out of this world and achieve liberation. And then there are groups like Hindus that believe in gods, but believe that all of these different gods come from one source, not exactly a one god, but an origin, a sort of eternal, all-existing being called Brahman, and that even the gods themselves are just manifestations of Brahman, and that our souls are also manifestations of Brahman. That the soul is the only thing that is real. The soul, which is unseen, is the only thing that is really real, and that everything you see around you will eventually pass away. And you can see similarities between Hindu and Buddhist thought, right? Both Hindus and Buddhists believe that what is seen is actually illusion. What is not seen is really real. And that's something that a lot of religions share in common. In Christianity, Judaism, Islam as well. This idea that we exist here only temporarily. But there's something else. There's something else out there. In a way, it's a goal. It's something that has to be reached or understood or communed with in some manner. So one thing that all religions share in common. We're going to see there are many different ways that religions function. I think you're going to be surprised by the diversity of religion. Next question on here is, why do we study religion? Maybe that's a question that only you yourself can answer. Why do you study religion? Why are you in this class? Besides, of course, you're going to, fulfill some prerequisites so you can graduate, of course. But you probably had some other reasons why you want to study religion. Maybe you're a member of religion yourself and you want to understand other religions. Maybe you have an interest in the way religions see this unseen reality, or the way religions impact society and politics and art and many other day-to-day aspects of living. We study religion for many, many different reasons. I think one reason I study religion is because religion is this fascinating phenomena that intersects with every other aspect of human life. There's no subject, there's no thing related to human beings that does not intersect with religion. It intersects with politics, it intersects with art, it intersects with history, it intersects with families and individuals, music, it intersects with the sciences, it intersects with pretty much everything. And so I just find that absolutely fascinating. And that's why I study religion. How do we study religion? That's maybe a little bit more answerable. That's easier to answer. You can study religion in a variety of ways. Just as religion intersects with all these different aspects of humanity, you can take any one of those aspects and study the way religion intersects with it. You can study religion in history. You can study religion in psychology, the impact that religion has on human beings, and sociology, the impact religion has on society. You can study phenomenology. I have some bold print, not just because it's a key word in the textbook, but also because this is the perspective we're going to use a lot in this class. Phenomenology studies the perspective of religion from the believers. Instead of standing on the outside of religion and looking in and saying, well, they're doing religion for this or that reason, this is why they do this is what they believe. Phenomenology tries to get into the religion and ask and study the religion from the perspective of the believers. If you're a Muslim, why do you study religion? Why do you practice your religion? What does it mean to you? What all these different rituals mean to you? And that is a point of view that I try really, really hard to bring into this course. I really try hard to bring in interviews with members of each religion, so you can get the perspective of why do they do it? What does it mean to them in their lives? The other thing we'll look at a bit at is hermeneutics, which is the study of the theory within each religion, right? How do religions understand themselves? How do they explain themselves? And there are many other different ways we study religion as well. For your final paper for this class, you'll have a chance to pick almost anything you want to do, anything you want to write about. And I encourage you through this course, think about why do you study religion? What is interesting to you? And find a perspective, a point of view that you like and write on that. Always makes for better papers. It always makes for better papers for me to read and better papers for you to write, more rewarding papers for you to write. In the corner here, I have a picture of some Muslims who are at Friday prayer. You can see they have prayer mats rolled out and they're praying. And their little boy here is copying his father. Children are brought to mosques on Friday with parents, of course, just like children are brought with their parents to church on Sunday. And the children aren't expected to do the full prayers, but you see a lot of children in mosques who are emulating what they see around them. So he's doing this because he sees his father do this. What does it mean to his father? What will it mean to this little boy as he grows up? It's a fascinatingly complex thing. The goals I have for this course for you are twofold. First of all, I want you to be able to talk about each religion covered in this course. If someone mentioned Jainism, someone was reading a book and they said, what is this Jainism? What does that mean? I want you to be able to talk a little bit about it. Oh, Jainism is a religion that comes from India. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like that. They do this or that. Also, should you ever meet a member of any of these religious traditions we're going to study, I want you to be able to talk a little bit about it, right? Should you meet someone at in one of your courses who identifies as Buddhist, I want you to be able to know what that means, to be able to talk with them a little bit about it. And have a better understanding when you see these religions talked about in the media, in the news, know a little bit about them. We'll talk in our section on Islam specifically, but also in our section on religion in the 21st century about resources on religion and how it's not as easy as you would imagine to find unbiased, true sources on religion. It's seems like most people have a bias. Part of peeling away those biases to find good sources is understanding the basics of each religion, so you can recognize who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. And the second goal I have for you is to be able to understand ideas and worldviews completely different than your own. This is very important, not just in your education, but in your life as a whole. It's very important that we be able to step outside ourselves and see the world from another point of view, from another person's point of view. Being able to do so makes us more empathetic, it makes us more compassionate, it makes us wiser. And hopefully you gain some of that from this class as well, if that's not too ambitious of me.